I calculate that I get like 500 hours a month from these virtual assistants
Mhm.
for a couple grand, right? It's like not $2,000 or something like that. It's like, and I'm having them do a variety of things on the acquisition, deal analysis, a personal assistant side, all the things that you could think of that. But I just found a lot of entrepreneurs kind of struggle with that first hire. It's almost like the first deal, like to get the first deal out the way and you'll eventually do more. Get that
Yeah.
first VA out of the way, and whether they work out or not, it doesn't matter. Like it's a really low barrier of entry. You test it out, and you're working on your leadership skills, which as an entrepreneur is very valuable.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of The Report. Today we are in the studio here in downtown San Diego, and I got a special guest who actually popped into our meetup last week here in San Diego, Beers and Deals, and he's successfully done 150 real estate projects. He's been on the Wealthy Way podcast with Ryan Pineda. He's been on the BiggerPockets podcast. I've got my man, Alex Camacho. Alex, welcome to the show.
What's up, Rich? Thank you for inviting me, man. It's an honor to be here.
Dude, I appreciate you coming on, man, and flying into town. You're down in Guadalajara a good portion of the year, you were telling me.
Yeah. So I flew in from Phoenix, but I live part-time in Guadalajara, Mexico. Family's from there, and just the incredible life I get to live down there for a fraction of the cost.
I got a question for you. Do they have good tacos al pastor in Guadalajara?
Man, you got to taste the tacos there. The culinary experience in Guadalajara is second to none, man. I that's one of the reasons actually I live there, because of all the fine dining and the taco trucks, everything.
The best tacos al pastor I've ever had are in Mexico City. You know, all those little street taco vendors. I'm like, fuck, they're the best I've ever had. I need to go to Guadalajara. It's been on my list. You were telling me a little bit about it. You were getting me excited, so I want to come down and visit, man.
Yeah, dude. So I'd love to host you anytime. You got the penthouse down there, so whether I'm there or not,
watch out.
it's open to you,
The
bud.
penthouse. Okay. Now I'm really gonna come. What's the culture like down there overall?
So it's an old city.
Okay.
It's the second biggest city in Mexico, and it's
Is it really?
Yeah, it's
I didn't know
known
that.
as the birthplace of tequila and of mariachi music, and so it has a tremendous culture. People are warm. People say hello to you wherever you're at, as far as, you know, like if you're in an elevator compared to other major cities that you might not get that type of feeling of it being a big city, but still people are rather warm. And I have a lot of family down there, and there's world-class venues. I watched the Canelo fight there recently. I had a nice event where people come down. I regularly go to sometimes some of the soccer matches. But it just the quality of living down there, I think people are just happy with a lot less. And I also have a good amount of assistants down there that work for my company in the U.S.
When's the best time to go down there weather-wise?
Well, it depends. It's known for its great weather, so you can
Is it
go
really?
pretty much year round. There is some time that's like rainy season, but what's great about that season, as I like, is that it doesn't rain that much where I'm at in LA that much, and they have these cool thunderstorms. So it's like you get the whole show. You get the thunder, you get the lightning, you get the rain, but
Yeah.
it doesn't get cold.
Yeah.
So it's still rather pretty pleasant. Yeah.
And the nightlife?
Oh man, it's incredible. Guadalajara is known for its beautiful women because it's one of those places in Mexico. Mexico City is not known for that. Ask people around. Tapatías are some of the most beautiful women in the world.
Now, why is that? Because I've spent some time in like Medellin, Colombia, but you go to other parts of Colombia, and people just look a little bit different, right? It's not the same quality. Why do you think that is with Guadalajara being relatively close to Mexico City? It's a 3 or 4 hour drive?
Yeah, it's short. It's not far at all, but you'll see a huge contract. Not only the women, the men too.
Why
mean,
is that?
Well, during the conquest, I guess the Spanish conquest, there's a couple of places that there was a lot of settlement of Europeans, and so those people mixed with, the indigenous people, and so then you have some very, very light-skinned Caucasian-looking Mexicans there. Essentially, you'll walk into some fancy restaurant and you'll look around and you're like, wow, this doesn't seem like it's Mexico, at least from the perception, because like everybody looks Caucasian, like people with light eyes.
Spanish settlement there from Spain. It's interesting because I was just down in Argentina back in December, and you go down there and, they had a lot of European settlement down there. Even the buildings, the architecture has a lot of European vibes down there, but the Spanish down there look different, a little taller, and definitely different than the rest of South America, Latin America. So I could see that. So, dude, tell us a little bit about what you're doing in the real estate space, man.
Yeah, so I primarily fix and flip. That's my core strategy. That's what I've been doing for now a good part of about 7 years. First couple of years, I worked for very successful investment firms there in Southern California. Learned the ropes, cut my teeth, bought them like 70 houses or helped them acquire close to 70 houses in that first 2.5 years, from 2017 to the middle of 2019. And just been doing it on my own, growing ever since. Went from just doing a couple myself to at our peak when we were flipping about 15 houses at once. I'm not doing a whole bunch of high-end stuff. So it's just the entry-level stuff, but across predominantly all of LA County. And there's people that know LA County, it's a big county.
Massive.
Yeah, there's all types of price points. I'm buying houses from as little as $200,000 in the Antelope, Palmdale, Lancaster area that we talked about, all the way to the $600,000-$700,000 price point in the suburbs like San Fernando Valley and things like that. Yeah.
So it's funny you mentioned Antelope Valley. I was an air traffic controller for 11 years, and I worked 6 years at LA Center, which is located in Palmdale. We joke, we call it like the Palmdale capital of the armpit capital of California.
Some people used to call it Pompton.
Pompton?
Yeah, because a lot of people from Compton or the South LA moved out there.
Yeah, I want to say back in the 60s, a lot of folks moved out to Palmdale. There's some gangbangers out there. Oh yeah. I saw some shootouts in some parking lots late at night for sure. I saw some weird stuff out there, but that said, there's also a lot of good people out there in the Antelope Valley, especially on the west side.
Yeah.
You were saying that you guys flip on the east but hold on the west. Is that right?
Yeah. So the Palmdale, Lancaster area. So the east side tends to be a little bit seedier, a little bit more ghetto, and so we typically we jokingly say that, hey, we'll flip the east side and we'll keep the west side, because I also have some cash flowing rentals out there on the west side. But I grew up in the San Fernando Valley, so Palmdale, Lancaster was always relevant to me. Friends were moving out there; their parents were buying houses, or I did some loans back in the day when I was doing lending. So I think it's very much overlooked, underappreciated submarket within Southern California.
Dude, funny story. So the initial training for this air traffic job was in Oklahoma City. So I spent 6 months out there, and they said, hey, you're going to Palmdale, California. We got a facility for you. And I thought, man, I was young. I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, Palmdale, that sounds beautiful. Palm trees, it's going to be awesome. I show up. I had been in Oklahoma for 6 months, and I just wanted to get a California burrito. I used to crave California burritos when I was in college, ate them all the time. I still do today. So I'm back in town. First night, I'm in Palmdale. I go find a taco shop, and I'm ordering a California burrito, and this is on the east side. And this dude's wearing a Seattle Mariners hat, and I'm waiting for my order. And I was just small talk. I'm like, hey, what's up, man? You a Seattle Mariners fan? He's like, rolling 60s, homie. And I was like, what does that mean? He's like, rolling 60s LA Crips, homie. And I was like, damn, that was my first introduction to Palmdale. I didn't know, but if you rock the Seattle Mariners hat, I guess it's you're part of that gang.
Yeah.
And it's a big gang.
Yeah, it is. That's why I said earlier is I think people would call it Pompton, but it's much nicer now. And just there's certain neighborhoods of Southern California, but it's interesting that was your introduction.
Yeah.
Palmdale is not. We'll say it's not the favorite place of many people in Southern California. But hey, a lot of times investing in real estate is not sexy. Although your asset class in boutique hotels is very sexy.
Let's go.
My single family houses in Palmdale, nothing to write home about, but they're lucrative.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the main thing. You making money or not. I mean, you can be sexy. If you're not making money, it doesn't make sense, right? So that's funny. But yeah, that was my intro to Palmdale. But like I said, did it 6 years there. I think I left there end of 2015. I have not been back. Maybe I will make an appearance. I still know a lot of folks up there. I could go back to the facility, say what's up. Some of those folks still invest in my real estate deals today. I just haven't been up there.
We'll host a meetup, and then you come speak and come check out your old area.
I'm down. Yeah. I'm down. I'll be in and out though. I don't know if I'm gonna hang out too long. So, anyways, dude. So you're flipping. You're living part time in Guadalajara. You're in LA. You're out in Phoenix. You're doing some multifamily stuff. What are you doing in the multifamily space?
So I bought an 18-unit value add deal, and then the market completely turned, and so we've been kind of navigating to getting that stabilized. And so right on the tail end of that, a lot of learning. I love Phoenix metro market in general, so I did a lot of research before I decided to invest in Arizona. Just wasn't interested in having a huge portfolio of single families in Southern California simply because of the tenant-friendly laws and all those things. I've dealt with a handful of issues in that kind of area. And so, yeah, man, just excited about getting this project finished. And then we'll either 1031 exchange and sell it to just pick up something else. But we do like the location because it's only 10 minutes away from Old Town Scottsdale, 10 minutes from the airport, 10 minutes away from Tempe. So it's a great location. We just, bought it at a time before the market had changed.
Where is it exactly? Is it Scottsdale?
It's Central Phoenix. It's
Central
right
Phoenix.
beneath, if you know Arizona, it's right underneath Arcadia.
Okay. Yeah, Arcadia is a great neighborhood.
Yeah.
all the schools are 8s and 9s, and that's an expensive neighborhood to be in. I mean, I know from experience, like a 4-bedroom single family house that's renovated in Arcadia is going to run you $2 million. You know what I mean?
So we like the location, and we just have to find better financing for it to keep it long term, or we'll just move that money to something else.
What do you guys pick that 18 unit up for?
So it's $200,000 a door,
Okay.
$3.6 million.
Okay.
And our original plan was to have an evaluation of around 5, but with the market changing cap rates, we're thinking it's probably going to be in the mid 4s.
Yeah.
So it just changes the potential exit.
Yeah. I own a luxury rental Airbnb out in North Scottsdale off of Shea Boulevard and 64th. But we go out there every now and then. We're actually out there like a month ago, team. We went out there and just kind of went out the little team bonding trip for a weekend. Noticed it wasn't booked, so we went out. But that property, it just did $82,000 in the month of February. Damn, crazy, right? And gross.
Yeah, exactly.
That's gross. That's not net.
I've seen it on your videos. And I'm like, oh man, I definitely want to go check it out. Sometimes somebody I know and one of our team members has been there before. I don't remember what event. I think he did a Pace Morby thing or something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I think he went to that.
Oh, did he?
He was like just raving about like how you finished it. And I'm a huge fan of Scottsdale. Just, I mean, Phoenix Metro, right? You got all these, areas nearby too, like Sedona. So I'm, kind of Californian at heart, but I feel like I've overlooked Phoenix and the whole metro area for way too long. I grouped it together with like Phoenix, with Vegas. And they're very different cities because I'm not a huge fan of Vegas. Yeah.
How come?
Just I think the lack of nature, the lack of culture. I mean, the culture being kind of like gambling and all that kind of, the strip,
the nightlife,
partying, the
entertainment.
Nightlife, entertainment. So I already get a lot of that in LA. So
in Guadalajara.
Yeah.
Let's go. No, okay, that makes sense, dude. I always say, Vegas is very centralized. So if you are gonna like have a podcast or you're gonna do business, I feel like it is easy to book guests if you're in Vegas because all the big names are coming into Vegas at least once a year. So you see a lot of podcasts out there. Ryan Pineda, Bradley, they're all in Vegas.
Yeah.
So I think that's from a geographic standpoint, it makes sense. But I agree with you. There's not a lot of culture out there.
Yeah. Not my city, but I go every quarter too for the Ryan thing. So
you do?
I'm there, yeah.
You're the wealth cons.
Yep.
What are those like?
So they used to be a lot more intimate, but now they're more of a conference. So I think that you get value from every type of real estate investing meeting or group or conference you can go to. But now it's just like it's a whole show. So, but since I'm one of the founding students, like I was in the first, 50 to 100 students back in 2019 with Ryan, I feel like I have a lot of friends and fellow investors and people that we catch up with, plus the new people that I get to meet. So I enjoy it. But like I'm in and out, just San Diego though. I love this city. I love to come here more, but yeah, I don't do a lot of business here.
I haven't been to a wealth con. I want to go. It's impressive that he's hosting these every 3 months. I mean, I know just the amount of work to put together an event like that. Yeah. It's a lot. So the fact that he does it every 3 months is a testament to his team. I mean, the dedication to do it over and over and over. But yeah, I'm thinking, dude, I'd love to start hosting an annual live conference here in San Diego.
Yeah.
Best city in the country to throw a live
love
conference.
Coming here. I came to a BiggerPockets conference here once.
Yeah.
So it was great.
October of 2022. I was there as well.
Yeah, this is fantastic.
And it was great.
City, yeah.
And so I thought, man, we know this area. We got all the connections here already. We could throw a badass conference here right on the water and bring in all the best speakers, blow this thing up. I'd love to have like 5,000 people come out and then and have like all the networking events on like all this sick stuff, rooftops, boats out in the water. Like I think it'd be really dope. So I don't know.
Sign me up. I'll attend.
Yeah. There you go. As a busy real estate investor or entrepreneur, time is money and first impression is everything. Every day to make it easy on myself, I wear Built Basics clothing. Whether you're a girl or guy looking for workout gear, joggers, shirts, button-downs, hats, or shoes, Built's got you covered. Super comfortable, tight in all the right places to make you look fresh and clean all the time. Visit BuiltBasics.com and use promo code SUMMERS20 to receive 20% off of your order. Again, that's BuiltBasics.com. That's BYLT Basics.com. Use promo code SUMMERS20 to receive 20% off of your order. Now back to the show. So what are you working on this year, man? I know you mentioned something about you're doing a virtual assistant thing as well. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so one of my passion projects has turned into a business that we're going to be starting. We're still in the early phases of it, but just a little bit more context. 2020, I moved to Hawaii because I got close with Brandon Turner and through one of his masterminds, and then the pandemic hit, and then he wanted to do some more real estate flipping, some deals that he was doing there, we ended up not working directly together, but he opened the doors for me to move to Maui. So part of the reason I was able to do that is because I had boots on the ground and a lot of experience in LA. The other thing, though, was that I was always a big fan of these virtual assistants. People, I think, group them into just, oh, hey, you can get a bunch of cold callers. But I've actually found that they're very much more capable of doing much more project management assistance, personal assistance, all these other things that save you so much time as an entrepreneur. And I've had them in all over the world, Turkey, Philippines, Ecuador, Mexico, Colombia. So anyways, once I started to fly down there and spend more time in Mexico, I got to see kind of both sides of it. And so one of my passion projects here is to start this virtual assistant company. It'll be based in Mexico. Obviously, we'll eventually expand and have virtual assistants in other parts of the world. But it'll allow me to create a culture down there because I am there and I do see the opportunities that they have, or better said, they don't have. Like and this guy's coming out of college and he's going to be making like $4 or $5 an hour and having to grind in the office and all that, when he could be working within a smaller company that has more upside for him and he could work from home. So there's just a lot of value, I think, there that I could provide both sides, which I have the talent side, acquisition side, and then I have the experience of being an entrepreneur and having different virtual assistants in different positions and growing them. So I want to kind of work on that this year.
We have 4 full-time VAs on our team. They're out of the Philippines, but I always tell people, I'm like, man, like that's probably the first hire anyone should make, is like a virtual assistant that can help do a lot of the day-to-day. So we utilize our virtual assistants for a lot of things, but primarily they're on the hospitality arm. So it's like all the guests checking in, checking out of all the properties. They're doing the guest communication. If there's a repair that needs to be done, they're sourcing that with the correct maintenance personnel. They're double checking all sorts of different things, but they do a lot for us. And you can't, like you said, you can't beat the cheap labor. And it's not so much the cheap labor, but it's like for the amount of input and the output that you get, it's really, and you find a good one. Dude,
I mean, I think I calculated that I get like 500 hours a month from these virtual assistants for a couple grand, right? It's like not $2,000 or something like that. It's like, and I'm having them do a variety of things on the acquisition, deal analysis, a personal assistant side, all the things that you could think of that. But I just found a lot of entrepreneurs kind of struggle with that first hire. It's almost like the first deal, like to get the first deal out the way and you'll eventually do more. Get that first VA out of the way, and whether they work out or not, it doesn't matter. Like it's a really low barrier of entry. You test it out and you're working on your leadership skills, which as an entrepreneur is very valuable.
Yeah, I agree. How did you get into hosting these big meetups, man?
So it really all started during COVID. I remember I was living in a big house, that I was subject to house hacking and doing Airbnb and office hacking and doing content. And I felt guilty because I had this big house. There was people dying. People were fighting over toilet paper. And I thought, well, what can I do to help out? And I just started doing some like free coaching where I was just like, hey, guys, if you need some help. And then it just turned to like, let me just do this weekly. And we were literally doing a free webinar / online meetup / interview of another investor for like 100 weeks straight. It just turned where every Wednesday we're doing this webinar. 30 to 100 people would show up depending on how we promoted it and who we got on the show and all that. And I really enjoyed it because it just allowed us to be still meeting and talking about what everybody's up to, because you didn't have any in-person meetups anymore. It was during COVID. And then that turned into where when things opened up, I started just hosting them at my flips. So I started having 30, 40, 50 people show up to my flips and I could talk about the numbers, talk about how I got the deal. That's what everybody would always want to know. And so just kind of started that up. And then during all this, somebody recommended that we start a Facebook group. So we started a Facebook group. We got like, 1,500 people in there now. And it just kind of became this deal maker community where I just felt, okay, I'm always getting these quality connections. And as an investor, you're always looking for deals. You're always looking for capital. You're always looking for contractors, and you're always looking for talented people to join your team. So I felt like these meetups pretty much accomplished all of that. So I'm like, well, why don't I just keep doing these? And I think even going backwards, I used to throw some kick-ass house parties back in the day. So I've always liked being a host. Yeah. And even and after that, I used to promote nightclubs in Hollywood with a friend of mine. They had the table, Supper Club and Lure, all these like bad-ass clubs back in the day. And so I always liked being part of like the nightlife and all that. So I've kind of combined those experiences. And now we have one of the coolest, most consistent real estate investor meetup in SoCal, usually 100, 200 people.
Dude, I love that, man. When did you, so you started that one in 2020?
Yeah, so we started doing the in-person meetups like in late 21, 22, and now it's just grown to where it's like I could easily get 100 people at the meetup, no problem.
What kind of venue do you guys use?
So we vary the venue. We've done one in Palmdale, Lancaster, at some brewery. I have a friend that runs the Sky Bar. It's at the Mondrian Hotel in Hollywood, so we've done it a handful of times there. And then my brother, who's in the medical marijuana space, he actually had a big warehouse in downtown that we hosted a bunch of meetups at too. So it varies.
So in Palmdale, what's the biggest difference with the meetup there versus like LA?
I don't think really it's a huge difference. There was obviously it was less of a turnout, but it was still over 100 people. But what I found in hosting meetups in different locations in SoCal is that if you're in this part of town, you'll probably not drive an hour and a half to the other part of town to do a meetup.
No.
But you will drive 10, 20, 15, some shorter distance.
Yeah.
So I found that since I cover the whole SoCal, or at least LA, San Bernardino, Riverside, I like putting them in different places. But also there's a lot going on, right? We have to get the great venue and then have to promote it and then all these moving pieces. So we've stuck to places that have done well for us, but I do like mixing it up as well. The next one we're going to do is going to be like a mansion party.
Oh.
Yeah. So, back in the day, people would love to go to these mansion parties in the San Fernando Valley in the hills or in the Hollywood Hills. So I want to kind of take a piece of that and plug that into the real estate investing networking. Yeah.
Dude, I love that, man. Do you guys do speakers at your meetups?
Yeah.
You do?
Usually. What we found, though, is we try to limit it to only a third or fourth of the meetup. So that way people can make connections, because I've been to those meetups too. They're cool, but then 90, 80% of it's all of them talking. And the speaker is somebody that's important, obviously successful. I want to hear the game. But at the same time, I'm there to meet people. Yeah. So we really toggle, kind of battle between going back and forth of like, hey, how do we provide the environment where people make connections that they can do business with, but we also give them some game for those people that maybe are a little bit newer.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is nice to go to a meetup and hear someone speak, but for me, it's always like the connection. I always try to like meet one or make one or two good connections, and that's a win for me, right?
Yeah, and that's why I liked your meetup so much, because I met probably 20 people.
Did you?
I walked in there, and there was no speakers. It was just you had some check-in. It was an amazing location, and I got to meet so many people because there was no talking. It was just everybody come in there and meet and mingle. Perfect, bro.
Yeah.
I'm gonna copy that a little bit. Yeah.
But I think the speakers is good too. I've been to some meetups that, to the extreme example, where it's like they're speaking the entire 2.5, 3 hours. They have different speakers, and then they're pitching something. You have loan officers pitching, and by the time it's over, everyone's already kind of trickled out and gone, and there's no networking. So I think there's always a little bit of balance, but I think there's value on both ends for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
Yeah. So, dude, man, what are you focused on in 2024? I mean, I know you're doing some multifamily stuff that you're dabbling in out in Phoenix. You're doing the fix and flip stuff. You're down in Guadalajara. You working with the VA thing. What are you focused on this year?
So last year I sold a lot more than I bought. So just going back to acquiring that 1-2 home run deals, because in LA we really shoot for like those six-figure flips, and so we got a couple in the pipeline right now that I'm excited about. There's even one that I think we can make multiple 6 figures on. And so just going back to consistent deal flow on that in Southern California, finishing off this 18 unit and then selling or refinancing that, and then all the other things that we're working on. We do plan on having at least 6 events this year, the deal maker, and they're usually going to be meetups, but we'll also probably have like one mastermind, and we'll likely have 1 or 2 workshops that are geared towards just elevating real estate agents and connecting a lot more with realtors and loan officers, and kind of empowering them and showing them how to get their first couple deals and all that. Because I used to be a loan officer and I used to be a realtor. So I know that side, and the avatar tends to be an avatar that follows me a lot and that I can help a lot.
Why do you think a lot of real estate agents and loan officers never get into investing in real estate and owning the real estate?
Great question. I've asked that myself as well. And I think one thing is fear, right? They're just afraid of making that investment. They have the money saved, and it's one thing representing a seller and getting a commission. It's one thing getting a loan, in the pipeline and getting a commission off that. But then, actually wiring $50,000 or some money that you saved up for years is very intimidating. I think that's one big part of it. And then another part of it is I think it's almost like a fish in water. Like they're in the game, right? They're in real estate. They think they kind of know it. They see the clients, but they don't know how to really, really get in, right? And so there's that. And then I've also just found that their mindset of it is just totally off, because they're thinking, oh, this investor just lowballing, but they don't really even understand the numbers. So many times I'm on the phone to agent, I'm explaining to them what the numbers are and why my offer is that. And so I think that's kind of a big thing, that the mindset of them. I try to teach the realtors to say, hey, getting a very motivated seller that wants to sell their house is very difficult. But getting an investment deal is almost, maybe it's more difficult. It is, I'll admit. But maybe you're going to make $10,000 in a listing, but then you can make $100,000 on a flip, or, you capture equity and keep a rental. So there's almost like this 5 to 10x potential return, but it's not 5 to 10x harder. That's the way I look at it. So I'm like, so either be an agent and go all in on that for 2-3 years and go hard and make $200,000-$300,000, multiple 6 figures, and invest consistently in real estate yourself, or just scrap that altogether and then just go all in on the investing side of things. And, that will pay off bigger dividends, I think. That's my advice typically to agents. Yeah.
I'm always shocked when I see all these real estate agents out there that don't get into the game because, one, as a full-time real estate agent, you qualify as professional real estate status under the tax code. And so by you going and picking up a real estate, let's say it's a long-term rental, even if that long-term rental maybe loses you $100 a month, $200 a month, doesn't even break even, the depreciation from that long-term rental is going to offset such a large portion of your income taxes as an agent with the income that you're making from a commission standpoint, that it makes so much sense. Mm-hmm. And then in addition to that, you could sell a property, or let's just say that you're gonna pick up a property. You can represent yourself on the buy side, and now you can roll that 3% commission into the down payment. And as a lot of these properties out there, you can get in for little to no money down with some of these conforming loans. So now you're really not coming out of pocket so much. They have that new multifamily loan product. Yeah. I believe it's Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac.
Only 5%.
5% down for multifamily property, loan amount up to $1.4 million. And so if you represent yourself on the buy side to pick up something like that, roll your 3% commission in, maybe cover the seller or negotiate the seller to cover all your closing costs. Now you're getting into a multifamily deal for only 2% down and out of pocket. Do a cost seg study. Use the depreciation to offset all of your commission of your income taxes as an agent. I think it's such a huge opportunity out there that a lot of agents just either don't know about it, or maybe their brokers just aren't doing a good job of educating them.
Yeah, I think that last part you just said right now is key. That a lot of times they're in this retail brokerage, and the broker, maybe they have a couple of rentals, but they're not actively teaching everybody in the office how they can be an investor and an agent. Mm. So I think it's a lack of being in front of them, and so that's definitely a part of it. So yeah, good point. That's a fantastic strategy.
Dude, if I was a agent / investor, I'd be out there freaking educating people. I'd be like, yo, guys, this is not the end game. You going and hustling all these transactions and being an agent. I'm like, that is not the end game. The end game is to create passive income, build wealth, debt, taxes, and really grow,
and they got to be able to put on both hats. If you're in the game, they put on the agent hat and rock that hat and be great at it. But then know when to put on the investor hat and not to judge the investors, be one. And then, you'll just benefit so much more than just only being an agent making commissions.
Mm-hmm. But, I think going all in as a real estate investor, it's like, you got to create some sort of active income, right? So I think if you're going in and you're just like, hey, I'm going to invest in real estate for the passive income and create some equity growth here and there, I'm like, okay, that's great, but you're really going to need to generate some active income. You're doing it with the flips.
Yeah.
A lot of real estate investors out there have online coaching, they have masterminds, they have products that they sell, they have, other streams of revenue, whether maybe they start a property management company, right? Mm-hmm. So there's so many different streams that you can create, but I always say you need to have some sort of active income in addition to the passive income.
Absolutely.
Until you can really build that portfolio.
Agreed.
I'm curious because, as a kid growing up, I didn't know real estate investing and entrepreneurship was really an option for me. Was that the case for you going back to your prior real estate investing days?
No, I didn't. Nobody that I knew was investing actively in real estate. But I found real estate by being an agent during the recession and where things changed and there was a lot of short sales, a lot of foreclosures. I actually had good amount of success in the mortgage business before that happened. and bought some properties with some of these short-term, exotic 100% financing type of loans that later on I had to end up sell. But without finding the agent side, I wouldn't have found the investor side. But my mom, owned her own house cleaning kind of business where she was a house cleaner, but she also brokered deals. And so she had a cleaning agency, we'll call it, an employment agency for nannies and for cleaning ladies. So I saw the entrepreneur side from her. And then my dad managed restaurants, just fast food restaurants. So I think I got the managerial or kind of that bug of being able to manage people from him. So I seen that both of those sides. But I have been very blessed to have parents that have always been supportive of me being an entrepreneur or going off. And I moved to San Francisco for a year back in the day, moving to Hawaii, right? Spending time in Mexico and Guadalajara. My mom loves it because her side of the family is down there. So I get to spend a lot of time, with all of her extended family. But I think when you don't have that potential support or that encouragement from your folks or from people in your family, I think it makes it harder for you for sure. But I've been very lucky on that side.
Yeah. Dude, I love that. Is your mom, like now that she's seen everything that you built, I mean, because I know my mom, she grew up in Taiwan. And so she knows the value of like working hard and saving your money, right? And so now she sees everything I'm doing and she's like, okay, like she's like proud, right? But at first she was like, dude, what are you doing? It's risky, like all that stuff, cashing out the 401k, buying real estate, raising money, all that sort of stuff. She was not a fan, but now she's like, okay, she gets it. But what is your mom?
Likewise, she at first they were like, okay, you show me, like, because I was working for these other investors. And I was helping them buy all these houses, and I wasn't making that much money. And this was for years. But I was very passionate about it. And I saw that the end game would be that I would learn these skills to be able to make a lot of money on my own. But I knew it was going to be different than the mortgage business, different than, all the other stuff that I had done in the past. So, but there was that stretch of time where it was like, okay, well, when's this going to happen? When's this going to happen? And it took 26 months actually for me to break through. I know for some people it happened sooner, but I worked for that first investor for a year, then the second one for a year and a half. So it was just kind of like that 2.5 year mark is when I really broke through and had a monster month, and then fortunately just never looked back. But 2023 was a real kick in the butt too. With the
was
whole,
it?
Well,
because of the rate environment.
I think the rate environment just zapped so many of those end buyers to push them to the sidelines. So what we found is that we made less on flips that we had active. We had a lot of pullback from private money lenders that just said, hey, you know what, after this flip, I'm just going to hold on to cash. And then we pumped more money into this 18-unit acquisition than we expected. So all those things combined to a circumstance where last year we're just, okay, you know what, we're just going to sell some of these. As I had to sell like 4 or 5 rentals last year that, frankly, I didn't really want to sell. I sold a house on the beach in Hawaii. Now, it was in the hood in Hawaii, but it was on the beach, I sold that one. I sold my house in Hollywood. So sold a couple properties off last year. But
just to kind of like
just get more
liquidity.
Yeah, more liquidity and all that. Or we were kind of being offered some private money that was just not attractive. It was just really high interest rates. And we're like, okay, we'll wait to find something better. And so last year, we sold more than we bought. I'm typically buying 20 to 30 properties annually. And last year, I think we only bought 4. So it was like a big pullback. This year, now we're off to doing kind of what we have in the past, those 2-3 properties a month. And the ones that we're buying are like fat spreads. So, we're excited about this year. But the last year and a half, 2 years has been definitely, we'll see the lack of demand and just some changes in the markets affected us for sure.
With real estate investing, asset protection and protecting yourself from personal liability is huge. The best way to address this is to correctly set up your LLCs and entity structure. For us at Summers Capital, we use Prime Corporate Services to set up, manage, and provide guidance for all of our entities, making it truly hands-off. If you want to learn more, visit Prime Corporate Services/Rich Summers to book a free call and receive a special podcast listener offer. Again, visit primecorporateservices.com/Rich Summers to book a free call. Now back to the show.
As a flipper, like you mentioned, your bread and butter is kind of that $300,000 to like $700,000 price point in LA County. How has the rate environment affected deal flow and ability to access good deals today?
Well, we've had more of a problem in having more deals in cash recently. It changes. Sometimes you have more cash than deals. But we did see that because of this lack of inventory. Yes, you can go off market and create your own inventory, but what I've seen is that when you have these sellers locked into these low rates, they don't really want to sell unless they have to sell. You have these buyers who are like, I don't really want to buy with these current rates. It was kind of like a stalemate, what I noticed last year in that, where, and we couldn't really predict, will we see any appreciation? No, although, we always look in macro and micro because we know our market, but we're always looking macro what's happening as well, because, we want deals that have upside, right? So we want to buy deals that have a very controllable downside if everything goes wrong. And that has happened. And I think in more than 100, close to 150 deals at this point, we've only lost money on like 8 deals, and it's me losing money on those. And half of those were with the first investors that I worked for, because we were buying volume. So they would lose on a couple. I think the most I've ever lost on a house flip is like 25, 30 grand. And this is like everything going wrong, like that you could think of. So we really focus on that, just buying deals that if everything goes wrong, we have a very reasonable loss, and that was something that we could stomach. And then if everything goes right, we have a 6-figure flip on our hands.
Do you guys ever wholesale these deals?
I'll wholesale like 10, 20% of my deals, but it's not a big thing that I do because I focus more on acquisition and just.
How do you determine if you're going to wholesale it?
If it's outside of our box. So we'll get something that's maybe a little heavier rehab than we want, something that is just a little bit exotic, something that's a higher price point. So a lot of stuff hits our inbox. I'm also right now working on getting our first small multi-unit developments over in LA. Nothing crazy, but just stuff that we're seeing right now that's very lucrative, tearing down a house, building a quad, stuff like that's very popular right now in LA.
Yeah. What about the ADU play up in LA?
I love it for owner users. I have not found that it's been very lucrative for like investor flippers. For us, it's just the amount of work that we have to do, extra time, planning, permitting, all that for the back end return. I'd rather hold real estate in other places and make more money with just the flipping. So I know that you promote it and you talked about it, but I just have not seen it pencil out for all the extra work in LA County. Maybe San Diego's different. I'm not sure, but it's not been in LA City. I think is a fantastic play for house hacking, owner users, the right, those type of clients. But for like flippers or investors in general, for me,
just because you're trying to get in, get out, and you don't want the holding costs to kind of eat away.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, if you're securing better long-term debt on that from the beginning, then you're just in better shape. Yeah. Because you don't have a 9-10% rate on there. But when we're buying with hard money, that year and a half that you're gonna do that ADU, really it's into a lot of that profit and ties up a lot of capital. Yeah. And in the neighborhoods that it makes the most sense, you're talking about an acquisitions price of $600,000 or more, which again, those payments really add up. Yeah. Whereas if I was buying a $200,000, $300,000 house, it wouldn't matter as much, but it doesn't make that much sense to build in those areas.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. That can add up. So like one of the things you can do with the ADU play is buy the property with like permanent debt, so like a little bit cheaper interest rate. Yep. And then Airbnb that property out, so it's at least breaking even during your hold period while you're waiting for the permits. And then once you get the permits in hand, ready to build, then you can go out and either find a private money lender to finance the construction, and then you keep your permanent loan in first, or just refi into like a bridge loan at that point, do the build out, and then you could either sell for a profit or refi a perm debt again and hold the asset. So
I'll look at it that way. I think that's a fantastic way of putting it, because I agree with you. Now, when you say permanent debt, are you doing like a 5% investor loan or 10% down, or what kind of loan are you doing on that?
Yeah, you could either do maybe seller financing. I've heard of people doing seller financing for some of these projects. And then you could also do like a DSCR loan. So yeah, you're looking at 20% down, 15% down at the minimum DSCR loan, but getting in maybe 7%, 8%, and then Airbnb it out. So you actually bring in a little bit extra cash flow, at least maybe breaking even during the hold period. Because let's be honest, California, it could take 12, 18, even 24 months to obtain the permits, and then you still got to do the build out, right? But I agree with you. I think if you're going in hard money day one, not doing the Airbnb, the holding costs would eat up pretty quick.
No, that's a great hack. Yeah. I think I'm going to look at it that way, because certain areas that does make sense, they could be good Airbnb areas as well, because again, you're not going to Airbnb kind of in the hood or a lower price point area. So that's a great hack. I like that.
Yeah, so like I'm doing 2 ADU projects right now. One of them is a property I've had for quite some time here in San Diego, but picked this one up during the pandemic, actually in 2020. And it's 2 units, Airbnb in both sides out, but there's a garage that I'm going to convert. I just got the permits to build out the garage to a 1-bedroom, 1-bath ADU. So probably going to wait for this summer season to be done. And then maybe like next winter, I'll probably shut it down, do it then. And then the other one, we actually got a little bit of seller financing on. And that one was a historic property here in San Diego, 3-bed. We renovated that 3-bed, and then we just started Airbnb in and out, right? So it's not going to be cash flowing, but it should break even. We got some expensive debt on it. We were pretty highly leveraged, but we're waiting to get the permits to build like a 3-story ADU, the biggest one we could build, with like a rooftop deck and all that. So that should be pretty cool. But once we get the permits, we'll build it out, and then the end game is we'll have 2 basically 3-bedroom units on that property, and then we'll Airbnb both sides out, and then we'll have a 3rd listing to where we can kind of Airbnb the whole thing. And if you're listening to this and you say, oh, you can't Airbnb an ADU out, yes, you're right, you cannot, but there's a workaround. So if you lease the ADU out to a long-term tenant, and then that tenant, you allow that tenant to sublease on Airbnb. That's a legal workaround. So there's always a way to do things.
Yeah, of course. Do it the legal way, but there's ways you can, massage things. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of San Diego, man. I was flying in from Phoenix today, and I'm flying over Balboa Park and some of these, I think it's Golden Hill. I know there's a couple.
So you were sitting on the right side of the plane.
Yeah. Like, oh man, I love this city. It's such a beautiful place.
It is. I always like sitting on the left side when I fly in, because then you get to see the bay and Coronado Bridge when you're flying in.
I gotta use that one next time.
Yeah. Try that one next time. But dude, it's funny because every time I travel, I love traveling, but every time I come back from traveling, I'm like, fuck, we're landing. I look out the window. I'm like, dude, this is paradise, man. Yeah.
I tell my parents that too, because they met in Tijuana. So my mom is from Guadalajara, but she moved when she was with her older sister, and she moved to Tijuana and met my dad there. And so I had some fond memories here in San Diego, but they had friends in LA, and I tell my parents, like, why did we not settle in San Diego? Like, what happened here? But they're like, well, we had friends in LA, whatnot. And I've done a handful of deals over here, more when I was with the second investment company. But this place in Oahu are my favorite place in the world. And I feel when I settle down a little bit more, or maybe just stop traveling, stop working so much, I'll probably end up in one of these 2 places. So
what do they say about San Diego and Hawaii? They say it's like the Hawaii of like the mainland. Why do they say that?
Because it's the people and the views and the ocean and all of it combined. And so I've been blessed to spend time on all the Hawaii islands, well, the main ones, and own real estate in 3 of the 4. And it's a magical place, but it is a tough place to do business. And there are obvious things like the price points, but yeah, I think a lot of people feel like San Diego is one of those places that it reminds them of Hawaii, but it got its own vibe.
Yeah, I love that, dude. I got a question for you. So, if you were starting all over in real estate investing today, knowing what you know now, we're in a high interest rate environment, all that, what path would you go down? Maybe for the listener out there that's about to start their journey and they're wondering how they should start.
So it's great. I think it depends on one of 2 factors. One would be, what is your current work situation, right? Do you have a great W-2 that's paying you decent income? Can you qualify for one of these small or these low down payment loans, FHA? I think that's one of my biggest things that I would have done differently. I worked for the bank my first 4 or 5 years right out of high school, and I was definitely W-2 eligible, qualified, but the information was not out there. So I would say get the biggest, best fourplex that you could afford, that has a little bit of a value add component, where maybe rents can be increased and you live in one unit and rent out the rest, get the experience. If you can, do Airbnb on some of those other units and just ride that thing until you could refinance that into a much better loan. And then that way that you can go and do that a couple of times if you want, 2-3 times, and own some great assets. And what I love about the fourplex play too is because there's different fourplexes, right? There's 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 square foot fourplexes, meaning that they're big units and there's a lot of upside for them. And so that's what I would do if I was on that side. And then if I was more on the entrepreneur side, maybe self-employed, then I would just go all in on one of those strategies that you can have upside. That would likely look like, it would likely be me going and working for an investor like I did. I think that's a great way to do it. But commit that 1-2 years, because you need that time to learn it and then go off and do your own. Or if you do have some money saved, go ahead and pay a coach that you've vetted and you trust and you've gotten reviews and it seems like they know what they're doing. There's a ton of them out there. but execute that. You need to go all in with that because you're going to spend $20,000, $30,000, but you need to apply all of that, everything that you learn, because that's one mistake I've made in the past too, where I've paid for some coaching or some mentorships and I didn't apply as much as I learned. And if I did, I would have had more success within that program. So I would say those are a couple things that I would do. Dude,
that's so good, man. I think house hacking a multifamily property has made a lot of millionaires over and over and over. And, it's not sexy, but it's I think it's one of the most guaranteed paths for the everyday person to become a millionaire. Yeah. I mean, let's be honest, getting, especially with that new 5% down program.
You could be cash flowing like on your first property or have no housing expense at all on your very first property. Like that's a huge win.
Yeah. And that's your most expense for most people. What's their most expensive monthly expense is their living expense. You eliminate that. And then you take that money that you're saving and then you save that and then redeploy that into another down payment, repeat the process. So I think it's a very lucrative option that a lot of people just don't talk about. I'm curious, what's the biggest mistake you've made in real estate investing?
I think the biggest one would probably be not getting started sooner. I think I had the seed planted to me in 2000, I don't know, it was 2010, 11, right around the time you talked about buying those properties. They were dirt cheap. Everything was so inexpensive. But I lured back into the mortgage business, and then I did some Airbnb arbitrage. All those things did help, I guess, in some way, me to kind of come back up after I had lost a lot from that debacle with the recession and then being in the mortgage business. But I just sat there on the sidelines for 3-4 years doing stuff that wasn't passionate about, that wasn't that interested in, that I really couldn't be the best version of myself, all those things. But it just kept on coming back like a recurring theme, dude, you could be a great investor, house flipper. And so I think my biggest mistake was just not starting sooner. And then I think right behind that would be just not prioritizing how important it is to be a great leader within, your small business, because everything starts from you, your energy, your routines, your impact, your direction, your delegation, all the things that you do as a leader are so important to having overall success, because everything that you accomplish that is worthwhile is done through collaboration. And so I don't think I prioritized or recognized how important leadership was until much later than when I really should have.
Dude, that's so good, man. I can resonate with both of those. It's funny, a lot of real estate investors, you ask them that question, man, I should have started sooner. All of them. I should have started sooner and I should have bought more.
Yep.
But the leadership thing, man, I agree with you. It's it's probably one of the most important pieces of growing,
Yeah.
Anyways, dude, I appreciate you coming on, hanging out with me, man. Where can listeners get in touch with you?
So they can follow me on Instagram. That's my primary channel, Alex Camacho TV. So check everything out. I'm sure you'll plug it in there in the show notes. So
yep.
I'm pretty responsive there. I have a team. And if you're in Southern California, come out to one of our meetups.
There it is. And I got to come out to Guadalajara, man. And we gotta run it down there, man.
Let's do it.
And by the way, thank you for the swag that you brought in, the Dealmaker swag, the hoodies, everything. Those are pretty nice, dude. I'm excited for those.
Big boutique hotel Dealmaker, man.
Let's go. There it is. He's Alex Camacho. I'm Rich Summers. Listeners, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.